Do you think that it's possible to talk about belonging, one that can truly exist without authenticity?
No, I think they're absolutely interdependent. If I think about the concept of belonging and what that feels like, um, it's you're a part of a group, a situation, whatever, whether it's at work or at home or in the community, that you don't just exist there, and you're not just there because, oh, we want to bring more women into this circle. So now we have the representation, right? It's that you're allowed to fully be expressive of who you are. And if you are in a space where you can't be fully expressive of who you are, in appropriate ways, of course, then you don't truly belong. Like, I think that that is a prerequisite to belonging is, being allowed to show up as your authentic self. So yeah, I think they're completely interdependent. And if not, we're just performative. We're just pretending that we're creating belonging and inclusive environments. So,
So you just said something that triggered the thought for me is
hmm,
so I can genuinely appreciate the concept that it is one of your most basic rights to show up as your authentic self. But
hmm,
where do you draw the line when your authentic self, is frankly offensive to someone?
right,
And how do you define that? Because what's offensive to one person may not be offensive to another. So how do you balance your own authenticity? Even in the work environment, you can't just say everything you're thinking. It's not
sure,
appropriate, right?
yeah,
So how do you balance that of, being your true self, but not being offensive to somebody else?
yeah. I think that, so one of the things I do when I work with organizations where they're trying to increase belonging, they're trying to increase an inclusive work environment, is this concept of creating brave spaces. So for a long time, I think the buzzword or the conversation was around creating a safe space. This is a safe space. You can share here. But the issue with that actually a previous colleague pointed out to me and had a really, direct conversation with me about is like, what's safe to you, Kate, or what's safe to you, Tanya, is not safe for someone else. Like, you can't assume that safety will happen or be in place if you do these three things. But what you can maybe change and think about changing your language to is, how do we create a space where people can be brave and have courage to say something that may offend, right? That may rub someone the wrong way, but with some agreements around how we behave or we react in those situations. So I think in any ecosystem that you look at, there are always norms, right? There are always agreements that they have, and some are really healthy and some are really old and haven't been explored in a while. So when I work with organizations or even just in conversations in my own family or friend groups, it's like, what are our agreements here? Like, if we have conflict or something, perspective I share is completely in misalignment with what you've lived and what your experience is, how do we attack that with like curiosity and assuming good intent while also challenging one another's perspectives? And so, to kind of directly answer your question, I think the way you do that I don't care if it's an organization or a family or a friend group, I think it's the same, is you just say, this is who we want to be, right? We want to be this authentic space where everybody feels like they have a voice and they belong. But we're going to have, no doubt, conflict and issues that come up. So let's talk about some things that we can agree on for when those issues arise, and that allows us to all continue to be brave in this journey and effort to create belonging, so that people don't jump out of the boat, right? And that we can kind of all paddle and continue to swim together.